Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back again. You know how we get down. Atlanta, Boulder, Tolly, Uncle Neely talking Colorado football. Neely, let's jump right into it, man. You had your second scrimmage this past Saturday. There was one thing. You sent me the text message. You were like, there's one thing that I noticed that just kind of jumped off the board at what you saw on Saturday. And what was that?
Man, I sent you a couple things. I'm trying to remember which one was the priority there.
Well, I would say the offsides.
Oh yeah, the penalties. I'm always looking for that in the scrimmage that has referees. And as I said when we did the rewind, Tolly, what I wanted to see was fewer penalties this go around compared to the first scrimmage. That didn't happen. We had more penalties. We had less of the ones that we didn't have the first time. So it just kind of flipped. So there was a lot of offsides. But I would say this, Tolly, more than the penalty itself was the situation the penalty happened in. For instance, you force a fourth down, it's 4th and 3. Coach Prime sends the field goal unit out, and someone jumps, first down. Very next play, offense scores a touchdown. Those are the things you can't have in college football.
Those are the plays that literally had you pulling parts of your beard out last season, Neely. You get those what looks like a stop, and then on that play where all you have to do is not jump off sides, we saw instances, and maybe it just seems more magnified because of the penalty that you suffer. But I mean, those are the ones that just kill you, Neely.
Yeah, when you think about a team that, had 5 games that they lost by one score, holding somebody to a field goal that frankly, you don't know that they're going to make it. So the best they're going to get is 3 points. You give a penalty and they get 7. So either way you count it, it's a 4-point swing from the 3 that they were about to get. And you're losing games by 6 points and less. So big time penalties, big time mistakes like that can't happen. But I do love the energy that was out there. I love the players that stepped up. There was a lot of good battles out there and one-on-one matchups. It was one of those scrimmages, man, that was so exciting. I was sitting there like, man, this would be a great spring game. If this practice were televised, this would be a great spring game.
So with the offsides penalties, which gets everybody emotional when they happen because they don't. That's the one thing that does not have to happen. Um, what was the reaction of Livingston, the defensive coordinator, Warren Sapp's down there with the defensive line, Coach Prime? What were the reaction of the coaches to those offsides by the defense?
Frustration, but also a lot of "I told you so." When Coach Prime says tough, smart, fast, discipline with character, a lot of people think that discipline is not going to a party and getting in a fight. Don't drink and drive. Typical discipline issues like that. When he talks about discipline, he's talking about being on time for meetings. He's talking about being where you're supposed to be, alignment, assignment, and technique. Because he'll tell you a guy that comes late to meetings is a guy that's going to jump off sides. A guy that comes late to meetings is a guy that's going to run out on the field late because he didn't know he was supposed to be out there. And so when it happened, the head coach is kind of like, "See, I told you, I told you about him. Like this is what happens when you have an undisciplined guy in the meeting room. He's undisciplined on the field."
Mm, definite correlation there. Let's talk about the offense. What did you like on the offensive side of the ball on Saturday?
I love what I'm seeing from Deion Sanders. Love it so much. I'm just going to turn the page and skip past that. What I really love is what I see in Staub, Ryan Staub, the backup QB2. You came into the spring with this theoretical battle about who was going to be QB2 in the room. And I think in the first week or so, you're kind of scratching your head and seeing which guy's going to emerge and really push him and battle him. But I'm going to tell you this, man, over the past couple of weeks, particularly this past 2 scrimmages leading to the spring game, Ryan Staub is solidified at QB2. The distance between him and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, is pretty wide at this point. He's really done his thing in preparation, done his thing out there when he gets his opportunity. So I love what I see in QB2, man, and that's just going to bode well because here's the plan. Here's the theory, Tolly. If we can run this offense, get these new receivers under Jason Phillips going like we know we can, you're probably not going to have Deion Sanders playing a lot in the fourth quarter.
Right. I was going to say, and it can go both ways. We saw QB2 on the field last year, and there are situations, you know, a player might take a stinger or something that doesn't knock him out of the game, but he might have to go to the bench for a few plays. And you need a guy that's going to come in there and frankly, Neely, not wet the bed as soon as he touches the ball.
I think with 2 practices remaining, and that spring game technically is a practice, but we have 2 more practices before we get to the spring game. I don't think Pat Shermer's trust in Ryan Staub could be any higher. It's higher than it was when he had to play at Utah. I think that Ryan has really solidified himself in that QB2, but I also think that these coaches are still going to be looking at the portal to bring a guy in, a veteran guy, a more seasoned quarterback in that can continue to push and help out as well.
Well, let's go back to something that Shedeur said in his press conference this past week, which you can see on the Pregame Show Network. You can read about it and see clips of that at thepregameshow.com. Double E, Thee. Neely, Shedeur was talking about Coach Shermer, his new coordinator, and he said one of the differences this year is he understood even more the why behind what he was doing. And he really seemed to make a point about that. Is that something that you've kind of seen, as something that exists, people having more of an understanding, hey, we're doing it at this speed or in this fashion, and here's why we're doing it.
I have been with Shedeur now for 4 football seasons. One of those he did get to play. That was that spring season at Jackson State. And I've seen him have even more than that in offensive coordinators. He's had a different offensive coordinator each season and have had 2 in one season before. But I would say that the relationship that he has with Pat Shermer is the best relationship I've seen him have with any coordinator he's had in his college career. And that's not just the X's and O's. You see them talking in the building. You see them sit together at lunch. You see them talk after practice. They really have built their relationship based on communication and trust. So I think that that's going to come apparent on the field because now you have a QB and an OC who are on the same page. And even when they see things differently, they're able to communicate about it and understand the why we make this read or why we throw it that way. But it goes both ways, Tolly. It's not just Shedeur learning the why. It's Pat Shermer learning Shadeur's why. Because when you have a generational talent like Deion Sanders, you want to put him in the best positions to succeed. And so if he likes this route, if he likes this kind of timing, that's what you put into the offense.
Neely, you read my mind, brother, because I was going to follow up and ask you, not only does Shedeur benefit from having this seasoned offensive coordinator, but it helps any offensive coordinator when you have a professional quarterback, especially at the college level. And I mean, you don't have to answer it because you just did, but I mean, that thing goes both ways.
Yeah, I think it does just go both ways like that, Tolly. Look at Pat Shermer's career. Successful at all levels in the NFL, been a coordinator, been a QB coach, been a head coach. But this is his first experience with the college locker room. And so he's learning and growing as well. And he gets to learn how to teach Shedeur how to be a pro, but also deal with Shedeur where he is, which is in college, and understand that communication aspect and even the things that college kids and students are doing outside of football. When you're coaching the pros, they're pros. It just is what it is. When you're coaching college, there's a little bit more of a molding process involved. And I've seen Coach Shermer embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it's a great relationship. We'll see how it plays out once they start keeping score on the scoreboard. We'll see how many of those light bulbs work, Neely. You just sent me some information right before we came on. You talked about the portal, and we talked about it through some of our content earlier in the week, that the first thing that happens in the portal, you're going to have players leave. And then what happens kind of like that following week, you're going to have players coming in. So the name that you've sent me is Deon Hayes. He comes from Pittsburgh. He was the top available edge rusher in the portal. He has committed to Colorado. Neely, you said it was coming soon, and it looks like it's starting with the bang here on the incoming side of the portal.
I remember when Paul Mooney, who did a lot of writing for Richard Pryor and other great comedians, had a character by the name of Nick Rodamus playing off of the old soothsayer. And I hate to be that guy to say I told you so, Tommy, but to the folks out there, I told you so. And again, go look at the stats of the people that are transferring out, and then look at the stats of the people that are transferring in. Here's a guy with 8+ tackles. He's got forced fumbles. He got tackles for loss. I mean, you name it. He's going to go into that edge rushing room under Vincent Dancy and also get his fingerprints from Warren Sapp as well. So just a vast improvement. You know, the guys that were leaving out, you know, maybe 9 tackles in an entire season, having played almost 150 snaps. This guy is an upgrade. And I told you that's what was going to happen. You're going to see people leave the program, and those that who are leaving do not register on any list as the top transfer available. But here, just a week into this thing, Coach Prime has already brought in a guy that was top in his position in the portal.
And this is just the beginning. Just the beginning. All right, Neely. So we're coming up on the week of the spring scrimmage. Look, spring practice is as quickly as it starts. It's going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. What is the final push? What is the message? What are the goals that need to be accomplished heading towards the end of spring ball?
Well, really no time to waste. You know, I talked to Pat Shermer before the scrimmage, and he echoed that and just said, "Look, man, we got 2 practices left after this before the spring game, and then that's it until we come back to late July, early August. So no time to waste. You know, got to stack days, got to lay this foundation, got to make sure we're teaching the things that we learned from this past scrimmage to clean up before we get to the final one. So I think you're going to have 2 more days of intense practice and teaching in the classrooms to make sure guys know where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing when they're there. So just cleaning things up, man, because this April has gone by fast. Here we are, spring game week on Saturday, 27th. Only 2 practices left before that. No time to waste.
So the coaches will have limited opportunities to work with the players until the summer, but the players will be around the players every day. What do those relationships mean? What does leadership mean? What type of things can they do together just as players amongst themselves to still keep that iron sharp, getting ready, coming out of the spring, heading into fall camp, which will be a few months away?
Well, when you get out of spring ball, which is coming up April 27th, you go into May, and those are finals and graduation and all that kind of thing. So football is pretty much just discretionary period. There's nothing going on team wise. We'll come back right after Memorial Day for some organized workouts. It turns back over to the strength and conditioning, but football doesn't start back again until the last part of July. But to answer your question, Tyler, what happens is you see the guys who are leaders on this team making calls and getting people together every year since Shador has been in college. Those receivers work out with him during the summer. So I imagine that sometime in May or June, you're going to see on Shador's Instagram or some of these receivers' Instagram, they're in Texas or Houston or wherever, maybe in Atlanta with Utah, and they're on some field and they're working out because there's nothing that prohibits them from doing things together. It's just not football from the organized institution standpoint.
Yeah, and again, Neely, that goes back to that line between amateurs and professionals, or amateurs that are looking to be professionals, because that's what the NFL is. I mean, you look at the top quarterbacks at the professional ranks. We see it, splattered across the media all the time, that they're getting their guys together and getting those throws and catches in.
And same thing with recruitment. You see NFL players calling NFL players from other teams saying, "Hey, why don't you consider coming playing with me?" You see it in the NBA with people getting that quote unquote big 3 together. And so you're going to continue to have that push as well, because keep in mind, the portal closes as far as entry to it. There is no expiration on the exit from it. So you have until April 30th to get in the portal, but you have until kickoff of week 1 to get out of it.
Neely, we're going to talk more about this during the week here on the Pregame Show Network, but the spring game, the annual spring game, is going to be much more than just a game. I mean, this is going to be an entire vibe this coming up Saturday in Boulder.
Yeah, and it is the swan song, the proverbial nail in the coffin of the Pac-12. The Pac-12 officially sunsets when the season ends, when this semester ends, and so they still had the broadcast rights to this spring game. So the spring game will be on the Pac-12 network, and then that'll be it as far as the relationship with the Pac-12. But leading into the spring game, you got Prime's Got Talent, a talent show on campus, $2,100 prize. You got a big fundraising dinner with coaches and players to build the collective up. You got a little Wayne concert after the game, and I'm sure a host of other celebrities will be popping in to visit Coach Prime on this Celebration Black and Gold weekend. So Not on ESPN Live this year because ESPN is covering the draft, but still going to be some great coverage out there so people can stay tuned to what's going on.
Neely, you're right here. They're right here where they need to be for all the coverage, behind the curtain, analysis, the entire nine is right here on the Pregame Show Network. I mean,
absolutely. And this coverage that we're going to be bringing you is going to go well past the spring game because we still have so much unreleased spring content that we're going to be showing you some deeper behind the curtain stuff when we get into May. We're going to still be interviewing coaches and players in the month of May. So it doesn't stop over here on the Pregame Show Network.
it's 24/7. I mean, we're not, just, trying to exclusively solicit viewership. Of course we are, but I mean, Neely, it is an understatement to say that college football is a 365-day operation. Well, even when it's not officially going on, it's going on.
You got a couple of weeks in January, a couple of weeks in February, a couple of weeks in December, and then a couple of weeks in May. Out of 52 weeks, you probably have about 7 weeks that you're not involved in football. And those 7 are not consecutive. It is truly a year-round sport in college football now.
Yeah, and our coverage is year-round because Neely captures so much content, just right there in the midst of it. Like we're not going to make you drink the content through a fire hose. All right, we're going to give you some nice cups, let you sit down at the table. So we're going to spread that thing out. So there's still much more to come. Neely, I was just thinking about it before we came on air today. I was like, the amount of people, impactful people, football and otherwise, that have come through this program to speak, reach out, teach. I was like, what? I bet you if I just turned on a timer and just had Neely just start naming names of impactful people who have come through, I bet you we'd be 5 minutes in and you would still be dishing out names, Neely.
Absolutely. I mean, you make that list and then you go like, oh man, I forgot about this one. Oh man, I forgot about that one. The people who come through this program, friends of Coach Bryant, to support what he's doing and pour to these student athletes, it is an exhaustive list. From Hall of Famers to business people. I mean, you name it, Tyler, they've been here.
And maybe the most impactful to Neely, at least this past week, Mark Schlereth made a return, his second trip back to Boulder in as many weeks. But Neely, this time he bought cookies from his wife. And you were quite impressed, my man.
I wasn't the only one impressed. The entire team was impressed, and the head coach was impressed. And the head coach has been on this quote unquote diet, drinking these juices in the morning. And I know he knocked back a good 6 cookies.
Can you break down the cookies from the Schlereth household?
Moist without being droopy. You could hold it and it wouldn't sag, but when you bite into it, it was chewy. There were chocolate chips all throughout it, from edge to edge. Great job on those cookies to the first lady in the Schlereth family.
I don't. We might be able to let the offensive line have some of them, Neely, but not too many. Not too.
Dude,
many.
I was interviewing Tyler Brown. It's just Providence. You mentioned this. I'm interviewing Tyler Brown, and he says, "I'll need to go get some cookies for the all gone. Hold on 1 second." And he goes across the weight room, gets him 3 or 4 cookies, then comes back and does the interview.
This was cookies in the plural. Not I need to go get a cookie.
No,
I need to go get cookies. Oh man. Well, nothing beats it. My Toll House, out of the wrapper is nothing to brag about. So maybe one day I'll be as lucky as Uncle Neely to taste one of these cookies that are going viral on the internet. All right, Neely. Always a fun time, man. I'm going to cut it a few minutes short because my wife is returning to town. I've got to go pick her up at the airport. And Neely and America, I have about an hour, maybe about 90 minutes before I got to leave. If this house is not clean when she gets back, I'm going to have to come stay with you in Boulder, Neely. So, I've got some vacuuming, some dishwashing.
You got to clean the kitchen. You got to straighten up the common area, and you have to clean y'all's bathroom.
Yes, yes. 90 minutes of hell is in my immediate future before I make it to the airport, which can be in Atlanta, another hellacious event. So until next time, I'm TC in Atlanta. If you don't see me anymore, you know I did not get this house clean. Uncle Neely, hold it down, brother. We'll talk to you next time.